In late 2013, a game called Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. would release. The guy who made it? Yeah, Scott Cawthon. You may know him, I don't know, for an indie game titled Five Nights at Freddy's. Today we play a fan game, which is a fan sequel to Scott's Chipper and Sons Lumber Co. It has all you can ask for: goofy and light-hearted toads to terrifying nightmare beavers who want to eat your head. So it's time you grab a snack or drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy Tyke and Sons Lumber Co. The game starts off explaining what happened between the events of the first game and the events of this game. Essentially, Tyke got a little busy, and then Mike became a thing, which is the grandson of Chipper, the OG beaver. They live in a house in the forest, and basically now Tyke is telling his son, you need to take ownership of the business because I'm an old Tyke just goes, yep, I'll do it, and we just get straight into the events of the game. The main premise is you need to chop down trees, destroy these, whatever these things are, and collect as much wood as you possibly can. Our goal here is to make trees and destroy them. That's about it. Eventually, after just grabbing a bunch of lumber, which is this game's main currency source, Tyke says to us, yep, you've had enough for today, and we then enter the cabin. This is, no surprise, the FNAF portion of the game. We have a living room and a bedroom and a massive staircase that goes from either room. The game allows you to settle down with the mechanics, giving you a quick tutorial on what to do. Basically, you need to go left to right and check the windows. If you see anything in these windows, shut the blinds and continue this until the night ends. We also have a flashlight which has batteries that are not even existent. They die instantly. To recharge the batteries, we have to go to the bedroom and select the battery thing with our right mouse button, and then we get a full nice load of batteries. Essentially, during the night, there's going to be multiple instances where we will encounter animatronics. Each time we do, our sleep assurance will go up. So we need to just fend off the animatronics as much as possible, and eventually we will get sleepy and then sleep. I'm sorry, if I saw these massive robots trying to invade my home, sleeping is the last thing I would be worried about. Jokes aside, this is pretty much how the game goes for now. There's a lot more later. Night one would finish and, well, we would make it to the next day. Tyke is a bit of a jokester. He just says a bunch of stuff telling us, yep, go ahead, go outside and do some shit. We immediately encounter a robot called Powler who just wants to destroy us. Because of us chopping down trees, he gets a bit mad and starts to attack us. Thankfully though, he's a bit of not the smartest. He just goes at you, jumps down, and eventually stumbles. This is where we can fry his circuits and lay waste to the robot. We continued our venture toward the main town where we need to grab a coffee for Tyke. So we go ahead and find Lisa, who's our mother, and she says, sorry love, play a mini game and then I will think about giving you a coffee. So after listening to our absolutely diabolically stupid mother, we need to then play a level where we have to grab drinks and give snacks to birds. This then grants us the coffee which we wanted before, thank you stupid mother, and from there we go ahead and bring the coffee back to Tyke. Tyke is a bit of a annoying asshole and says, the coffee wasn't good, but just go ahead and build some shit. So again, listening to Daddy Tyke, we go ahead and start building some more stuff. This is where the main section of the game is at, just the simulator part. It's a bit of a grind fest. You have to really put in a bunch of time building stuff, making sure that you know what you're actually doing. I then spent the next 20 minutes doing absolutely nothing because I was quite confused on what my task was. Because at this point, there was no clue on what to do. I just had to run around and kind of learn things by myself. This led me to a snow biome, which I froze to death in, a sand biome where I was able to play this really cool looking game where I could shoot a bunch of beavers. And eventually I would be led into this person called C. Bill's house. This guy is a bit of a rich man and he tells us that we need to, I guess, be more of a business person like he is because he's such a Sigma. We take his advice as he's very rich and successful and he tells us, hey man, build me some stuff because I'm too old. That's it. I then went on a journey where I found a sausage man called King Yummy. Our goal now is to make a palm tree and a cocktail bar. And we need to make these items for the crabs living in the, well, beach section of the map. There's two crabs who obviously want us to make the renovations, but there's a slight problem. How do I get these materials? By now, I've only just grabbed a bunch of wood and I have to grab palm trees and coconuts. So it's safe to say I had no idea how I was going to grab these items. However, there's something the game doesn't tell you. In the palm trees, you can actually click on the coconuts. And if you do this, they will drop you coconuts and palm trees. Exactly what we need for, well, the first item being the palm tree and also for the cocktail bar. After waiting ever so patiently for the palm trees to drop their items, I would then be able to place the 2 items down and move on with my game. The crabs would then sit me down and talk about a story regarding Seabill. Seabill is pretty intelligent in that he's very good at making robots. Seabill would make an animatronic for the crabs, being this green crab animatronic. This animatronic would cause a lot of problems because it wasn't the best at laying low. In fact, at nighttime, it began to run around and cause havoc. So the crabs ended up taking this mechanical animatronic toward the mountains and left it to rot. That is essentially the story of the first animatronic which we're going to encounter. And after this, for some reason, some random person starts to talk about, I guess, trying to capture us. And this is obviously the bad guy, which we don't know yet, you know, who knows who it could be. But yeah, we go back to Tyke, who tells us, you did good today, but you have to do one more thing. And that is to build another animatronic, being Chippermat 2.0. To build this animatronic, we're going to need 20 lumber, 6 red lumber, and some axes. Grabbing all these materials weren't so hard because thankfully the shop owner in the city area does sell every single item which we need. After grabbing all the items, we could build this animatronic and then return to Tyke, who tells us to go to sleep. This time around, we have a new animatronic, being the crab animatronic we mentioned before. This entity will reside in front of us, and occasionally it may spawn in. If we see the crab animatronic, we need to flash our light from left to right very quickly. This for some reason scares off the animatronic and is something we're going to have to repeat for the remainder of the night. This followed up by the other animatronics which are in the game does make this night a little bit more challenging. But at this early stage, we're not really dealing with much, and as soon as you know it, I would beat night 2, sleep, and return to Tyke, who is now being interrogated by a police officer. Tyke is confused. What crime has he committed this time? The officer says that he is responsible for the animatronics which are going around causing havoc on the streets. Tyke convinces the officer that he will get evidence to prove that he wasn't the one responsible for the attack. And he tells his son that he will be the one needing to, I guess, deal with it. Being the great father in which Tyke is, he puts all the blame onto his son, who is now responsible for finding out, well, what happened. So Tyke sends us on another mission to first of all build a pirate ship and to secondly build a wooden duck. These 2 items are not too hard to get, the first one being the Shipwreck. We just need to find some ship parts. The only issue is to actually find the ship parts. You can't just go to the store and buy them. They're not actually there. So the only way we can get them is by, well, RNG. I mentioned before that there were like some, I don't know what these things are called. Let's just call them poo monsters. If you get rid of the poo monster, it will drop a random item. So we have to pray that we get the ship part, the anchor, and all the items which are not sold at the shop. So this does take a little bit of time, you know, rinsing RNG, hoping to, I guess, the Tyke and Sun Lumber Co. gods that I get lucky. And eventually I would be able to collect all the items and build these 2 objects. After this, we go to the birdhouse to go visit Uncle Seabill. So I just rewatched the footage. I've been calling these things birds the whole video. They're actually ducks. I don't think my stupid ass realized that they have literal beaks. So yeah, they're ducks. I'm just gonna take the L here. Yeah, my bad. So after talking to Seabill, we get some more info about, I guess, the robot that attacked his home. It is this big white, I guess, Wall-E looking monster robot that attacks Seabill, and he suspiciously makes it out alive. Although, let's be honest here, this thing isn't surviving this. It's not happening. Seabill, being the absolute goat that he is, gives us a keycard to an elevator and promises that it is the most epic place we've ever visited. Going down to the depths of his house resides a literal club. Place is filled with ducks absolutely getting it on the dance floor, obviously. Making our way through the club, the DJ duck says to us that he recognizes us as the grandson of Chipper. He says that back in Chipper's day, he had a bunch of absolute bangers, and if we could bring one of these CDs toward the club. We go back to Tyke to retrieve the CD, but Tyke has different plans. He says one of his inventions, the robots he made back in the day, has gone a little bit insane, in that it wants to lay waste to the Chipper & Co.'s facility. So we now have the second boss fight in the game, being this very tall and muscular wooden thing. It says how it's gonna crush us because it has a six-pack, exactly what any broccoli head teenager going to the gym would tell you. Thankfully though, it's not that hard to defeat. All you have to do is dodge its axes that it throws at you, and when the entity just stumbles on itself, we can then use our watering can to defeat the entity. Honestly, it was a little bit difficult at first because the axes are thrown in ways that can get you off guard, and this monster has a few tricks up its sleeve, like throwing 3 axes instead of 2 sometimes, but as long as you just stay, I guess, somewhat vigilant, dodge the axes and give it some water, it will eventually go away. After this, Tyke gives us the CD, which is called Look What You Made Me Chop by Timber Swift, and Tyke assures us that it's an absolute banger. So going back to the birdhouse, we play the CD, and let's just say it was an absolute insane song because it literally causes the whole club to go on a frenzy. That was quite possibly the most insane thing I've ever seen in my whole life. So after this, the floor below us destroys itself and we end up falling straight into what seems to be a mining complex. This wasn't told to us. We didn't know that there were actually mining robots down here, but here we are. The duck tells us where is our helmet, which we need to go and find one. There's some crates that we can find around this area, and if we click on the crate, it will destroy and drop either a coin or a helmet. So by going around and clicking on the crates, eventually I would find a helmet. I would then go toward the duck, which had one of the key cards, which I needed to go and activate the mine bot. We then get another mini game where we play as a mine bot, and our goal is to collect 200 salvage. The game is similar to, I don't know if you guys would know, but the game with the cars and the trucks and you have to like move them around. I have it up on screen here if you know what I'm talking about. But even if you don't, the aim of the game is to figure out a way to get all the 200 salvage. It is a little bit difficult to find out the correct path, and this would take me the next 30 minutes. I'm not joking, it was quite brutal. Because there's some areas that will make you start to scratch your head, making you think that you're an absolute idiot. We also find a boss entity that is like a skull with massive eyes. It shoots a bunch of Cheetos at us, but as long as we dodge these, we are pretty much good to go. I would conclude the section with only 196 salvage, and as I completed the level, I was then kicked with the good old repeat the whole thing you just did, because we need 200 on the dot, and I had 4 less than what we needed. So after doing the whole level again, I would then have just enough salvage to go ahead and continue on with the game. After this, we make it toward a stage where we can see 2 animatronics currently performing. Simon, who I believe is like Seabill's assistant, begins to talk about the animatronics and what they are. Apparently, Seabill had made a bunch of animatronics in the past, and he named one called Seabill.exe. Due to the other robots that Seabill made going rampant, one of the workers tried to destroy this animatronic, thinking that it would turn and destroy everyone in the mining complex. What happened was the animatronic got destroyed and didn't really have a chance after all the other animatronics went wild. We then make it back up toward the main area, and we also get another cutscene with the evil person telling us that it has to get rid of us. We're kind of dealing with some mysterious Scooby-Doo-like threat who really wants to take us out for some reason. After this section, we make it back to the mainland where Tyke asks us to make some more stuff. We have to make some more structures like this rock chop animatronic who does basically what it says, it collects rock, and we also have to make some other things like the Mr. Rainmaker. To get this, I had to go toward the shop to buy some of the parts for the Mr. Rainmaker, and after doing that, I would build all the items which I needed. After we complete this task, obviously Tyke asked us to make a new item, this being the storm machine, which is by far the most craziest thing we're going to build so far. The items it needs is like a magic heart, metal bars, glass cages. We've never even seen these items in the game. So I had a big task ahead of me. And the main thing was, how do I find these materials? The way that I would do it is going to the front stage in the depths of Bill's house. There's a guy that conveniently sells metal bars. He only wants 3 starfishes, or spiders as they're called in this game, which is a very nice trade because if you make spider farms, you can really grind a lot of spiders. So I would grab an absolute ton of metal bars, which I would then use to go ahead and make the storm machine. I already had the magic hearts because if you play mini games, you actually collect a magic heart for each game you beat. And with this game's absolute plethora of different games to play, this was very easy to get. I would also make a cloud making device, this thing here that made all my clouds. And for the glass cage, the guy at the store sells it for 40 coins. All in all, I would eventually grab the storm machine, which would give us some storm potions. And with all that, Tyke was finally satisfied. So we made our way back to the cabin and resumed night 3. This night there's a new animatronic, and this one is a little different from the rest. If we hear any sounds, this indicates that the monster is nearby and we have to turn all the lights off in the room. It's very advised that you go ahead and first check all the other animatronics first, as this one is more of a long-lasting animatronic. What I mean by that is when we turn off the lights, it will take a while for the animatronic to walk across the front door. And there's also a terrifying animation of the animatronic moving. This was by far the most unsettled I've been in the whole game so far. The light-hearted tone mixed with these absolutely terrifying nights was something I would not expect to be this just game-changing. I mean, it's insane how terrifying these nights actually are. The night is basically the same as the other nights, you just go around with the added threat of eventually turning off the lights if we hear a noise. And I would get through night 3 on my first go again. Although I was a little rusty because with the new mix of the new animatronic, I would get through it. So after completing this night, Tyke again gets confronted by the police. He says how this time you're getting arrested because you still have not given evidence. So Tyke just tells his son to just, knock out the police officer, which we do because, Tyke said so. And after knocking out the police officer, we take him all the way back to the city and chuck him in an alleyway. After bottling the police officer, we go ahead and continue with Tyke's task. Tyke wants us to grab 2 magical orbs because he wants to continue the legacy of whatever the hell this is. Without questioning Daddy Tyke, we go ahead and start our journey where we have to go ahead and venture to the mountains. The only issue being is if you run to the mountains, you freeze to death. So how are we going to get through the snow, you might ask? Well, thankfully, the shop owner sells a bunch of umbrellas, which we can use to create a massive umbrella, which we can then use to place down and run through the snow. Don't even ask how this works, it just does. We then make it toward this L, who has the stone which we need. The L, though, is a little stubborn and requires a seedless grape, and then he will pass the stone. So we now have to somehow find a seedless grape. So now I'm a bit confused. How was I going to get this item? The first thing I did was go toward this log. You can see a danger sign, which, you can fall off the log and end up in this random area. These turtles are pretty chill. They ask us, hey, do you want to play a game? We accept, and this game has 3 bombs and a bunch of fish. Our goal is to avoid these bombs and make sure we collect as many fish as possible. This game is not easy. In fact, it would take me quite a bit to complete. I would always somehow manage to just grab the rod and end up going and hitting one of these bombs. But there was one attempt where I got pretty good and somehow managed to complete it without too much trouble. This grants us a golden acorn. So far, no use for this item, but perhaps it will become useful later. We have to lock in because we need to grab a power generator. Next up was to grab this danger sign. You know how I mentioned before that there was a danger sign where the log was? Well, if you actually click on the sign, it will magically duplicate and you can actually pick it up. Pretty neat. I don't know how it would work in, real life, but I'm not going to ask questions. I'm quite grateful that the game gave me this. Next thing to grab was a light bulb. And again, how am I going to grab a light bulb? No one sells it, and there's no light bulbs I can see in the game. The way to get the light bulb is to go to Bill's house. In his light, if you press it, it will magically duplicate and we can pick it up. We now have all the items to build the power generator. and I would do this where this, I guess, submarine is. And guess what? We can actually swim in the submarine, and we now have to find the whale plushie, as it is the next item we need. This area is quite tight. There's a lot of explosives, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, and it was very crucial that I was very observant of my surroundings. Through the depths of this ocean I would go, finding all sorts of things. Eventually I would reach this area, and the left side of my screen there was a death trap. We had to run for our lives because we had now awakened something that we possibly shouldn't have done. Going as quick as I could, I would make it toward an area that was a little bit safer. Well, it was safe until this worm showed up. The worm has a bunch of spikes on it and it's not happy. I mean, is anything happy in this game? I don't think so. So we now had to face this monster. The good news is the monster will only have 4 attacks. It will go from each corner of the screen, making sure that it reaches out and tries to hit us. It will then throw some explosives or some axes toward us. If we simply dodge them, we can get out of it, and our goal is to shoot it as much as possible. We have to do this multiple times until eventually the entity will explode. It's a pretty cool boss. The swords that get thrown at you can be chucked at you in a very weird way, which can be a little bit difficult to dodge. But overall, it isn't too hard, and eventually I would beat it. We would then give the whale plushie toward this crab, who then gives us a seedless grape. Then we go ahead and give it to the L, who tells us, hey, you know that thing I promised you? Yeah, just jump down this mountain and it will be there. We jump down with no hesitation, and yeah, no, we die. You have to really be very good to beat this first go, because I had a lot of trouble here. You have to dodge the wood, and things can go terribly wrong. I had to maneuver through the wood and make sure I was landing in the flowers, which does slower your descent. It did take me a while, but eventually I would grab the grape and become a literal pancake. We then return to Tyke, who tells us, good job, son. You've gotten one of my 2 pearls, whatever these things are. He then gives us a lore drop of this chipper animatronic who was designed after their late grandpa, and its name is Kill Timber. Last time I checked, something called Kill Timber isn't safe, so surprisingly it would become very problematic for the chipper family because this thing was, well, evil. So they just told it to go mine some trees that hadn't existed, and they thought, hey, it's never gonna come back. We'll get more on that later. After this, you can kind of guess what has to happen next. Of course, we have to build more stuff. So apparently the magic dungeon has opened up. Finally, I've been so wanting to enter this absolutely stank looking dungeon. I've been waiting for this moment. All jokes aside, after entering the dungeon, we see a bunch of people who look like they've done too much fun stuff in the dungeon. The boss, being Costa Cadena, is a pretty big fella. It tells us that he has the pearl or the magic orb, but you're gonna have to help my customers before you get the pearl. The customers are the people that I mentioned before. The Minecraft creeper, the metal ant, and the womp from Mario. Each of these people, except the creeper head, wants something. The ant wants I think a chair, and the womp wants like a magic lights, fancy lights. I don't even know what he wants, to be honest. So now we have to go help these annoying people out. The only issue is what these people want requires ender pearls, and these ender pearls cost 200 coins each. And I don't know if you've been keeping track of my coins throughout the whole game, but they don't go up too much. This is gonna be a big issue. How am I gonna grab all these pearls? To my relief, there's a clam that can generate you pearls. However, to grab this clam, you're going to need a pearl, and the frog does sell a pearl for 200 coins. So now we're gonna have to grab 200 coins, and how am I going to do that? Well, I found a farming method inside of Tyke, Chippers and Sons Sumber Co. What you're going to need to do is make your way toward the main area. There's going to be a bunch of stuff, including lights, a bell, more lights. If you click on the lights, there's a chance you can grab a coin. Doing this method, rinsing and repeating, we can grab just an insane amount of coins. Did you guys like my voice there? Do you see how I changed it? Okay. So we kept doing this until I made it to 200 coins. I then exchanged with the frog, making sure I'd grab my pearl, and I would place down my beautiful clam. This thing would generate me a lot of pearls, enough so that I could build these people's dream things. They were quite happy and they would give me the orb. Actually, no, they would not, because this bird, this dumbass bird from before, who no one likes by the way, comes in and swoops the pearl off us. We follow the bird back to its little fun game thing that, by the way, no one plays. And the second it opens, we can see why. What an absolutely atrocious game. This bird is an absolute failure. Game is just mix and match, and the second we beat this, the bird gives us the pearl back. It also becomes very happy. After doing this, we go back to Tyke, and then we can complete our task. After giving the orbs to this thing, some magic guy comes down called the Strange Traveler. He mentions how for our next thing, we need to go to Seabill because he has the answers. Again, what answers could he have? Who knows? So going back to Seabill, he goes, just take a boat down to a mining rig in the middle of the ocean and yeah, just do that. So without hesitation, we listen to Seabill and we make it toward his beautiful oil rig. After getting here, we climb up the ladder and what do you know? A massive bird that looks something out of, I guess Elden Ring pops up and goes, initiate destruction of Mike the Beaver. And then we have a boss level where we have to face the bird. This is a crazy boss fight. It has over 5 stages and it's actually quite difficult. The first stage of this boss fight is the bird just lays a bunch of eggs. To dodge these eggs, you're just gonna be very observant of where the bird is. It's not that hard. The next stage, however, is a little bit more difficult. A crazy transition plays where the bird becomes like this techno disco, I don't know what you call this, and it starts warping in and out of reality, chucking stuff at us. This was quite difficult. However, the next stage was gonna be worse. What's next up on the bird's entree is a bunch of exploding TVs that it will chuck at us. This was by far the most difficult portion of the whole boss so far. The TVs will fall exactly where your player is standing, and if you get surrounded by TVs, you're going to get hit somehow. You could try and dodge them, but they'll keep coming down, and eventually they will hit you. So a good way that I got through this is, well, I learned this later on. You can actually shoot the TVs with your water hose. And what this does is it actually gets rid of them instantaneously. So as long as you're dodging and just shooting the TVs as they come down, this section is a little bit more manageable. Alright, the next part, the stage 4, is when he shoots a bunch of larger red eggs. The eggs also explode, which I forgot to mention, yeah, they explode. So this time around, we have to be a little bit more careful where we stand because the eggs are larger, therefore they can hit us a little bit easier. But I found it quite easy as it doesn't drop too much eggs, so it's not that bad. The last stage is when the bird becomes like overcharged and it completely makes the whole area just black. You can't see a single thing and the bird will start to chuck some exploding, like burning eggs. We have to now dodge the bird when we can't even see it, so it's a little bit more challenging. And another thing that we have to do is with these eggs, we have to shoot these with the water can. This will then make the egg go straight up and our goal is to hit the bird. Because we basically have to do this multiple times as the bird is now overloading. And if it overloads completely, it will explode the whole oil rig. So it's basically a race against time to shoot these eggs and make sure they hit the bird. With the mechanics out of the way, this boss was difficult. It honestly felt like a Dark Souls boss fight. I'm not even joking. That's the level of difficulty I felt whilst playing this boss. I was just blasting music, trying to just lock in and get through this boss as quick as I could. There was a few hiccups, especially with the TV portion, but as soon as I realized I can shoot it with the water can, it was a lot easier. And that last section also, I realized you have to shoot the egg up to hit the bird. And once all these things were ironed out, I would complete the boss fight. And finally, we would say goodbye to this bird. We then had to go back to Tyke, who of course tells us to make something else. This game just never seems to have enough things to build. What we need to build now is this metal mining animatronic. I would eventually build it and it just starts tweaking out. The head of the animatronic just goes berserk. But yeah, cool looking animatronic. Let's now hop into night 4. We now have a new animatronic for this night, being, well, Kill Timber. This animatronic can sometimes appear straight in front of us in the front door. If we see it, we're going to need to do the exact same thing for the crab. Just flash left to right very quickly and it should go away. The thing about kill timber is it can actually enter the home. If this happens, it will say something has entered and kill timber will go straight toward the bedroom. When this happens, it will remain in the bedroom, meaning that we cannot now enter the room for longer than 3 seconds. Because if we do this, then we would get jump scared. So it's basically just you have to go in, grab the batteries, get straight out and deal with every other animatronic. It's a little bit more difficult now with the added threat of kill timber. But the thing about kill timber is it isn't too much of a threat as long as you know what you're doing. The only thing I found difficult is kill timber can remain in the bedroom when you have to go and sleep. This is a big issue because we have to sleep, and if an animatronic is on our bed, we're not going to be sleeping anytime soon. To get rid of kill timber, what you need to do is you have to go back into the living room and go directly back into the bedroom extremely quickly. This will trick kill timber, meaning that he will exit the bedroom and this will give us a short window to go and sleep. If we do this correctly, we can just manage to get through night 4. After we would complete night 4, we head back to Tyke, who tells us today is the annual mushroom festival. He says that we're going to throw a party and that we're going to have to build some stuff before he does this. One of these things is a golden mushroom, which is the first time we've ever had to get gold in this whole game. So how were we going to get gold, you might be asking? Well, there's a way to get it, and that involves playing the arcade games at the Retrotopia building. I haven't actually gone through all these buildings before, but this one is the building with the green alien guy. The alien is called Johnny, and you can actually play all of his video games. The one we're going to have to play is level 4. And this game is basically a slide scroller similar to a Mario game, and all we need to do is dodge these like Mario looking things and we can get all of the items. This level is overall not too difficult. You just have to pretty much be a little patient, wait for the bird to drop its egg. You don't want this hitting you because you will, well, lose. And eventually I would play this multiple times. I would then grab a golden farm, which was one of the items which I needed to generate gold just whenever, so I didn't have to play this game over and over again. And after getting this farm, I would then wait for the gold to come in, and it did, very much so. So eventually I would place down the golden mushroom and grab everything that Tyke wanted. I then went back to the house and went upstairs, and the festival would begin. Tyke would say go around and I guess make friends, which we did. We found this fungal guy who is pretty insane, I can't lie. And yeah, a bunch of weird people here, but no worries. Tyke says it's our bedtime, so we take this opportunity to go downstairs. This would begin night 5, the final night of the game. And this time there's a new animatronic in the mix, being whatever this thing is called. The animatronic doesn't even resemble anything, to be honest. It's just a mash of parts, and our goal here is to try and not get it into our room. Every time it appears, it will have a red exclamation mark, meaning that we have to go toward that area and check for it. This is not too difficult as the game actually gives you a hint on where the animatronic is, which is very useful. But this isn't actually the difficult section of the night. No, that would be this section of the night. When we complete the original night, we get transported to this area here. There's going to be 3 toads starting to close in on us, and our goal is to make sure they don't end up biting our head. We have a watering can which we can use to get rid of the toads. However, our main goal is to target the one in the middle, being the main animatronic. We have to be pretty patient, as if we focus too much on the animatronic, the toad creatures will start to close in on us and begin to make us lose our health. All we need to do is focus again on the massive toad thing in the middle, and that's pretty much it. I did this for around 5 minutes and it was pretty smooth sailing, and by the end I would be able to beat this boss. He would then be able to fall asleep, and the next day Tyke finally convinces the police officer that the toad creature was the one behind all the animatronics. He also states that he's a tax collector as well, which makes Tyke shivel just a little bit more. Siebel does ask us to go down to his little underground mining complex and says that meet me down there, and that's about it. So we go down there, see what's going on, and as we enter we can see the animatronics that have been hunting us the whole game. We also get a blueprint of the massive robot that attacked Siebel in the beginning of the game. So yeah, something's up with this guy. We make it toward this spot where the massive robot goes ahead and snatches us. Seabill then says how we're basically an idiot for trusting him. He says that we're pretty naive, and he gives us a lore drop that apparently he's actually the brother of Seabill. His name is Seabob, and essentially as Seabill was giving orders to the whole mining complex, he was pretty much neglected by his own brother, which caused him to become extremely jealous. He then created a bunch of robots, the ones that have been hunting us the whole game, and these robots, instead of actually making people want to go down there, made people just scared of them. This would cause Seabill to fire Seabob, which made the guy tweak out. He then made a revenge story where he grabbed his massive robot that he made and ended up just destroying the whole house and destroying his brother as well. We then get chucked into this garbage chute, and down there we actually find someone that we haven't seen in a while. All of a sudden, this old beaver appears, and this is actually Chipper, our grandfather. Finally, grandson and grandfather reunite, and they're pretty much screwed until the strange traveler from before breaks into this little prison and gets them out. By the time they get out, Seabob has found out where they are, and a boss fight initiates. Essentially, we have to just shoot the massive robot as much as we can. This whole fight is pretty simple, just dodge all the stuff that's being shot by the robot and shoot as much as you can toward it. It is a little bit difficult when you get into the later stage where Seabob starts shooting a bunch of random stuff like these missiles that can break and just become very annoying. Overall, the fight itself is pretty long, but eventually I would be able to defeat the massive robot. This would then cause a massive earthquake that would just shatter the whole island. We then make our way from the ground, and at this point Seabob is again tweaking out. He grabs Mike and takes him all the way up, so the strange traveler ends up following Seabob and then ends up destroying the whole robot and brutally executing Seabob. This then brings peace to the island, and finally everyone is happy. Everyone reunites, including Tyke and his dad, and all the horrors of Seabob's creations are long forgotten. This then wraps up the game, where we see Tyke having a hot coffee in this nice wallpaper-esque picture. This is overall one of my favorite FNAF games I've ever played. It's the most unique FNAF game, I guess. The portions of the actual gameplay mixed with the more chill, laid-back, just simulator type gameplay is unique and something I've never played before. And just huge congratulations to the people that worked on this game. It's an absolute gem, and honestly was one of the most unique experiences I've ever played in a FNAF game. So yeah, that about wraps up this video. If you have enjoyed Tyke and Sons Lumber Co., go check it out in the description. I will have the game jolt down there so you can go ahead and play the game. If you're brand new here and enjoy the content, consider subscribing because there will be more content on the way in the foreseeable future. But anyways, with that said and done, until next time, take it easy and goodbye.